Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here for part 3 of a 4-part series as we thumb our way through
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Douglas Adams, part 3. We have finished the novel. We're going to talk a little bit about what we have read, and we will be back next week with a full review of it. But this week, let's talk about what we've read. Magrathia isn't deserted. It's just sleeping. Slarty Bartfast explains, which is the best name in all of literary, naming. That is brilliant, and tell me you didn't enjoy that name.
I did not.
Okay.
I did the Dalton thing where whenever the name came up, I just sort of skimmed over it.
I literally walked around for a day, I'm just like, Slarty Bartfast. It's fun. Slarty Bartfast explains that Earth was actually built as a giant supercomputer to find the question of the meaning of life, as the answer to the meaning of life is 42. Also, mice rule the universe, and instead of building a new Earth, the mice want to harvest Arthur's brain as it's the last bit of living organic matter from Earth that might have that secret within, but Arthur escapes and plans to have dinner with Sappho. And that's the novel. Adrian? How'd you feel?
I've literally got nothing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. It is absurd. It's ridiculous. And I am one to always comment on a fizzled ending.
Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest fizzled ending there is.
Well, it's an attempt to wrap things up.
And to be fair, this is a serial novel. This moves on to the next book, which I believe is The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. Yes. So this is moving on to the next part of the novel.
Well, and the message is sort of, it's not the big stuff that matters, the meaning of life. It's the little stuff that you enjoy.
Okay.
Like, where are you going to eat next?
Okay.
And then the novel ends with, hey, where do you want to go eat?
Okay.
Right?
I think it also comments a lot on the character that we are given, Arthur, as well. I've made the argument throughout the entirety of this series that Arthur is a man who does not want to be part of this book. Arthur did not want this journey that he was set on. Arthur is just the everyman who's along for the ride due to circumstance. And that seems very normal for it's an Arthur response. You know, hey, these mice who actually have been running the universe want to harvest my brain and kill me. What do you want to do for dinner? That seems an acceptable response to me. But it is a fizzly ending. We don't get a lot of conclusion, and it really just cuts pretty straight and dry. We have like a page where they're escaping this area, and it literally just moves to what are we going to have to eat, and the novel is over. But I think that is part of Douglas Adams' style with this. It is absurd, it is ridiculous, and I think it works for the novel, although it is a fizzle.
Well, and if it works, the way it works is that it is, like I've made throughout this series, the point that it is consequential-less.
Okay.
This is like Family Guy.
Okay.
You move from one oh ha-ha to oh ha-ha, and there's no link between them.
So Monty Python.
We've been over this, Dalton.
Okay. We're going to get back to that, I promise. But no, a lot of what this last bit deals with here is the idea of the meaning of life. It goes from a ridiculous novel about nothing to tackling possibly the biggest question there is. And it is absurd and ridiculous, and we do get some absurdism philosophy with this, where these creatures have figured out the answer to the question, being 42, but they have no idea what the question actually is, which seems to be human nature. Even when you're given the answer you want, it's still not what you're looking for. Which alludes to, is there really no meaning to life? Is there always going to be another question? Is there always going to be another answer? So I think Douglas Adams is doing some good things on that, and I enjoy that. It seems to add a little bit of flavor to this piece, and it gets away from just the ridiculousness of the adventure, and we actually start tackling questions.
Do you think you would have needed 216 pages to get there?
Not necessarily, but let's be honest, Douglas Adams takes almost 800 pages to finish this out. So this continues forward.
Yep. You're not making your argument, you're making mine.
That's fair. Like, I'm not saying it's like he takes his time with it. I mean, he still has 900 some pages to go just to get around to it. 800 some pages to go. 100 some pages to go. I can't do math. But he's Douglas Adams is getting there. Now, I think what he's establishing in the beginning here is the character of Arthur. And I know you don't like the character, you're not invested in him. Therefore, you don't see him as a good protagonist. But that's kind of the beauty of this, is he's not meant to be a good protagonist. He doesn't develop, he doesn't grow, he doesn't want to be here. Which is something you don't get often in literature, if ever.
You don't have to do any of those things. The Great Gatsby, nobody grows, but it's wonderful.
Okay.
Tell me who grows in The Great Gatsby.
Who grows in The Great Gatsby?
Who grows?
Well, I think your protagonist, Nick, grows a little bit. He learns what's going on around him.
He just becomes a little more disillusioned.
Okay. At least there's some change there.
He goes from disillusioned and his life sort of sucks to a little more disillusioned and his life sucks a little bit more.
Gatsby gets so close to what he desires when he realizes it's not the greatest ever, and then he gets shot down.
Your well, but he doesn't change.
Okay.
Your protagonist here goes from living on Earth to not living on Earth. Isn't that some type of change?
I think there's a little more going on with Gatsby than we have here with Arthur.
There's a lot more going on with that novel than this.
Okay, that's fair. Now, we talked a lot in the beginning about the idea of God in this novel, and you said it's just this one ridiculous line. It doesn't make sense. How do you feel now that you've got through this part?
The same.
Still the same? Like
Yeah.
the entirety of the meaning of life coming forward, and mice actually being the superior race?
Well,
Nothing there at all?
No, not for. I'm interested in what your argument is. What you think it, what it was for you.
Well, if human beings are the ideal creation of God, if we are God's image, and we are the ones who are ruling this world, there is clearly no God if there's this universe of intelligent life around us where mice are actually ruling things.
Yeah, but that was already made as a throwaway statement.
And when we're given the question of the meaning of life, which if you're going from a religious standpoint, it is God's greater glory. That's the meaning of life. But the answer is really just 42, and there's no real answer to what the question is, because we have nothing. This book gives us nothing, constantly. I really think it is a complete justification there is no God, because if there was a God, would he have intervened at some point in time? Would we have some kind of acknowledgement of this greater power from these other species? But we get nothing. Okay, moving on. This is a difficult book to read with you, I swear to God. Okay, so I was saving this for the next part of this, the full review. But I did some research on this, and apparently this is the thing. And for some reason, we are on both ends of the spectrum with this. People either really, really enjoy this book and take it to heart, and it's ridiculous and it's wonderful, or people absolutely detest it.
Yeah.
They see nothing worth in it. There's no character growth. There's no development. There's no plot. And they completely rebel against it and hate it.
Where'd you get that?
I can't remember where I got it, but it was...
I just didn't know if it was a personal story.
Oh, no. I was doing some research on this and came across somebody who had made that point. I'm like, well, this explains a lot. We're not going to get anywhere with this review. We're just going to yell at each other. But it seems to be the case. I enjoy this book. Every point that I can try to make where I'm trying to explain why I enjoy it, you just tell me it's a terrible book.
Well, and ultimately, I'm right.
Okay. So what is...
It can be a terrible book and you enjoy it.
So
but
where...
I would love for you to justify it as a great book.
So where, Adrian, are these rules for what makes a good book?
There's no rules for it.
So why are we just tearing apart something that's being a little exploratory? Because it's good. It's written well. It's funny.
It's not written that well, first off. But it can be exploratory and never find anything, right?
Okay.
If you went Ponce de Leoning and was looking for the Fountain of Youth, do you think you'd find it?
Probably not.
Would I have to give you credit for the journey?
I would say yes.
No, you fool.
Why not?
Why would I give you credit for looking for something that doesn't exist? We're looking for a great novel here that never gets written.
There is a great novel here. There is!
Well, then explain to me why it's great, because I've given you my take on why it isn't.
So I've explained it every single week. One,
and I've torn it
this
down.
is funny.
It's not funny.
It is.
It's silly.
2, this is a novel about a man who should not be a protagonist. This is something you never get.
Which is fine, but you have to have at least some... Okay, if you don't grow... Okay, so give me the ways he is counterintuitive to your normal protagonist.
He doesn't want to be on the journey.
which is fine.
He didn't ask for the journey.
Which is fine.
He does nothing to move the plot forward, except everything to move the plot forward.
Sure. I mean, that's sort of a trope of a lot of sort of fantasy stuff, right?
Okay.
You've got the screw up along who doesn't know anything but ends up saving the day.
But very rarely is your screw up your protagonist, your main character.
I would beg a little bit to differ because oftentimes your screw up is going to be the fish out of water. The fish out of water in fantasy is often the protagonist because it has to be to explain the story.
But that idea of the fish out of the water, that's something you get. That is part of the character themselves. We never get that with Arthur. We understand that Arthur's planet's destroyed and he is in an alien universe, but Arthur does not seem like a fish out of water. He's just going about his day.
In the first couple places he does.
You think so?
Right, where Ford has to explain things to him.
Okay.
But once they find this ship, he seems to fit in.
He just goes about his day. This is Josh Adamak as a protagonist.
Okay, that means nothing to anyone watching.
No, but like I'm trying to sell this to you right now. I'm like, that's wholeheartedly what this is. This is a man who just wants to go about his day, being thrown into an adventure that he didn't ask for. Literally, the fate of the universe is now lying on his shoulders. And the only thing he can think of is like, well, we should probably go get something to eat. What sounds good?
Your protagonist is a cold bologna sandwich.
Okay. Is there a problem with that?
Yeah.
Why?
Your protagonist has to invoke something in the reader.
I think this makes a point where it doesn't.
Right, and there's no investment.
And I think what really separates us here is there is no identification with Arthur.
No, okay, so and that's where I was sort of aiming is that American Psycho, Patrick Bateman.
Okay.
I don't identify with Patrick Bateman.
It's fair.
I'm appalled by Patrick Bateman.
Okay.
I can't take my eyes away from him.
Okay.
That is an example of how to do a protagonist that is your anti-protagonist.
But Patrick Bateman wants to be the protagonist. He wants to move this forward. He wants to kill. He wants to talk about suits for 900 pages. Arthur quite literally does not want any of this.
But why not make the point that you don't want any of this?
I think it does.
He's just a wet rag.
Yes. A wet rag thrown into one of the greatest adventures in the galaxy.
So Nick in Great Gatsby is a wet rag.
Okay.
And he doesn't really do much to move the plot forward. He's just sort of tugged along, isn't he? He's used as a pawn in that novel.
Okay.
But it's pulled off.
So do you think this would be better if Arthur was just a pawn?
At least there would be some intrigue. And there is the possibility, in fact, that he could be used as a pawn if the mice had known from the beginning that he escaped and they were tagging him and Ford along.
Okay.
They were telling Ford, hey, we've got this safe place for you on this ship. Don't you want to come along?
Okay.
Right? And then they want to harvest his brain. Instead, we get nothing like that. We get nothing, period. They chance and happenstance along, and they are not I just don't understand how this could be any more British.
Okay. I think it really comes down to investment in the character, because you have no investment in Arthur, you don't care about this book.
But it doesn't. I think I will agree with that, but I don't think that it has to be a positive investment. That's why I threw out American Psycho. That's why I threw out
That's fair.
The Great Gatsby. I don't have to like the character and identify with the character. I have to be invested in something. I have to have a reason to read. Look, do you see all these books here?
Yeah.
I'd like to read all of them at some point. I'd like to read more than this at some point. I would like to continue reading good things. Instead, for 216 pages, which isn't a great investment, but it is an investment where I could have been reading anything in the entire canon. I was reading about a wet rag of a character in a wet rag of a novel on a wet rag of a journey and just wet ragging it up, baby, because that's all there was to do.
And see, that's where, like, I think that's where we go wrong here. I will admit, Arthur is a wet rag of a character, but he is that wet rag because he's supposed to be.
Which is fine.
And for some reason, I appreciate and enjoy that. I find it humorous that he's being placed in these situations and that he's having to deal with this. There is that disconnect there that just throws this novel away for you, and you're just reading words on a page. I enjoy Arthur as a character. I enjoy the characters that we're given here. We get a lot of over-the-top fantasy characters, like with Zaphod, the great galactic spaceman.
Which all I could picture for Zaphod, and I can't remember his name, but do you remember Futurama?
I do.
You remember the Phil Hartman character,
The captain?
Yeah, the
Captain
captain.
Zap Brannigan.
Zap Brannigan. That's all I could picture for Zaphod.
That's fair. That's fair. So we have all these different characters here, and then we
Was
start...
that Phil Hartman?
I have no idea.
I think that was, I hate to say it this way, I think that was post Phil Hartman.
I don't know.
But it was definitely an actor who sounded like Phil Hartman.
But,
Which is something much more worth talking about than this wet rag of a novel.
okay. We also get characters in here that we are playing a lot with. We get the robots, Marvin, who is self-loathing, and there's nothing funny there to you that he is literally an autonomous being. He is, like, artificial, but he is programmed to self-loathe. That's wonderful.
So the little twist of irony there makes it almost funny.
Okay. But this whole thing is littered with irony, and that's what makes it funny.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Point out the ironies.
You have dramatic irony in the constant Murphy's Law aspect to this, where if something will go wrong,
Can
go wrong, it will go wrong.
No, that's not irony.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
You have situational irony with the meaning of life, where it's all just being thrown upon them.
That's not irony.
It is.
That is not irony.
You are like 100% just like fighting against this because you don't want to like it.
No, it's not irony. It is not ironic.
Why
you are
is
not
it-
you are not baited into something one way and finding out that it is counterintuitive to that. It is just something, oh well, no, it turns out there's no real meaning of life. It's 42. That is not ironic. That is silly. Irony has a great
So there's no irony beyond the fact that like these human beings, or however you want to put them, these creatures have spent like their entirety of their existence like building this supercomputer to give them this answer and worship this computer. And generations down the line, when the computer's finally ready with the answer, he gives them 42. That's not irony to you?
No, that's not. It is an attempt at humor. It is not irony.
I would disagree 100%.
It is not. Okay, we're gonna have to move past that.
Okay, we will fight this one
We're
out.
not going to make any progress there.
Okay. Again, even though Arthur may not know the meaning of life, he may have overheard it. Therefore, that is completely justified to harvest his brain. No humor there whatsoever for you?
Sure, but I don't know why it took that long in the novel to find a motivation.
Okay.
That's a motivation that would have been great to start this.
Okay.
That would have been great if somewhere along the line the mice had gotten a life signature from something that survived Earth, and then they want to find it, and then they're chasing. We don't get that. The mice happen upon him, realize, oh hey, wait a minute. And then our protagonist realizes, oh hey, no thank you. That's it. That's it. And it's the last third of the novel
Okay.
where any type of motivation comes from. I don't. Sure, would it have been great the whole novel? Yeah, it could have definitely changed things. It could have made things worth investing in.
So are we looking for motivation? Is that what this is lacking for you?
I'm looking
specifically?
for anything. I'm looking literally for anything. There's no motivation. There's no investment. There's no reason. There's no actual humor. There's no actual humor. There's silliness.
It's Monty Python. It's what it is.
It's not Monty Python.
Okay. So again, this is where the difference comes, and this is like the only thing that I have found out, like trying to justify this novel to someone who doesn't enjoy it, is
Is that
wholeheartedly.
no one can ever do it.
No, it's either people really, really enjoy this or people really hate it. There's no in between ground. You either embrace the fact that there is no plot, you embrace the fact that the characters are wash, you embrace the fact that there is no motivation. We are just moving forward, and it's a funny story, and it's enjoyable, or you don't like it because of all these things.
which seriously puts into question its literary merit.
So why is this considered a literary book, a literary fiction, a text?
By people who like it.
Okay.
There's no, I can't find any justification. Again, we'll go back to something else I hate. I'm trying to make this as fair as possible. I despise Harry Potter. I hate Harry Potter way more than I hate this.
Fair.
I can give you literary merit. I can make literary arguments for it. None of that with this. I can't do any of that with this.
So why is this considered basically a classic of literature, a top 100?
You're using that word as if there is some... A, you've shown me no lists where it's top 100.
We'll find you lists, I promise.
B, you're using that word as if someone else's canon should matter to me and should be absolute. C, you're using this term but not telling me who. Right? Are you talking about Time? I don't give a damn about Time Magazine's top 100 of anything.
Okay.
Well, who are you talking about? If Harold Bloom had said this, I'd go, okay, well, maybe I missed something.
I swear I'm going to
If
Google
you're
does
talking
Harold
about-
Bloom like Hitchhiker's Guide.
Well, Harold Bloom has
Yes,
never
he
laid
does.
eyes upon Hitchhiker's
He
Guide.
does.
Tell me why you believe that.
I don't know, but I really want it to be true.
There's no way he liked Hitchhiker's Guide.
Okay.
Big fan of Robert Frost, Harold Bloom.
Yeah. This seems a very Robert
Anyone,
Frostian.
anyone who likes Robert Frost, do you see them liking this?
It's possible. This
Okay.
seems to be like a complete... Maybe that's why I am drawn to this, is this seems to be a literary oddity. It seems to be obscure. It seems to be different. And for some reason, granted aside that we can't pinpoint down who, people consider this to be a classic of literature. This is a big deal.
I'm
As
pretty sure you're
opposed
still
to...
just making that up.
I really am not, honestly. And my question for you is, why is this considered to be more worth? There's more worth in this as opposed to American Psycho. Why do people hold this in higher regard than American Psycho if American Psycho is so great? Because that book is hot trash.
You've shown me no one who does besides yourself. B, I don't. C, don't ask me the question with your hypothesis behind it. Why do so many people enjoy this more than American Psycho? Maybe they're illiterate. I can't tell you. Maybe their literacy is on the bottom half of the scale. Maybe they are substandard. Perhaps their intelligence isn't quite all there. I can't answer these questions that you're making up. I'm not sure that what is the color of sad?
I don't know, Adrian.
Exactly. There's no real answer to that, right?
Okay.
What is the color of the meaning of life? It's a nonsensical question. That might be a nonsensical question. It might be that no one worth talking to enjoys the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Universe? Galaxy. More than
Also, it's
American
not on there,
Psycho.
but I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad I can help you out with that. It's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. See, it says
nowhere
complete.
on there. I was really struggling. I wonder why I'm struggling with that.
I don't know.
I haven't gotten that right this entire series.
There is no investment in this text for you, and that's not a bad thing. If you're not digging it, you're not digging it. But like, you have no investment in this text whatsoever, and it seems to be for some reason, and I cannot pinpoint it. You are either invested in this text or you are not.
Is that a question?
No, that is a statement. That is a clear statement. You are either invested in this text or you are not. And it seems to be, it's all, in my opinion, it comes down to Arthur. If you believe Arthur is a character and enjoy the idea of this character who doesn't want to be there, this character who is thrown into a situation where he must reacts with the bare minimum, and all his reactions are basically just like, oh, why not? It is a wet towel of a character, as a wet rag, as you keep saying. So you are either invested in that character or you are not. And that's what really makes or break this novel for you.
Yeah, I'm having trouble even having the mustard to hate the novel.
Yeah?
It's just, I think maybe what it is I've been in too many writers groups, I've read too much amateur writing, and this feels like heavily edited amateur writing.
Okay.
There's no direction. So this is, I use examples on the channel a lot of ways that a writer's group will harm you, will negatively impact you. People will say, "Oh no, I don't like this. You should get rid of it." Right? When that's what the story's really about. That happens tons in writers' workshops.
Okay.
This is a good example of what a writer's workshop will stomp out.
Okay.
This novel would never get through a writer's workshop because there's nothing.
Because it's Monty Python.
No, there's nothing.
You know what Douglas Adams used to do as well?
What?
Write for Monty Python.
Really?
He's one of the only, there's like 3 other people who are not in the canon of Monty Python who are credited from Monty Python for writing. Douglas Adams is one of them. This is Monty Python.
It's not Monty Python. Okay. I guarantee you there was a system for Monty Python, a review system for their writing process. With all of those shows there is. Someone comes up with an idea, makes a rough draft, it makes the rounds as everyone rewrites it, and right?
Yeah.
That's how television shows and all of these mass-marketed sort of engines of creativity work. These ideas passed through the Monty Python guys becomes something worth watching.
Okay.
This on its own simply is not worth reading.
Okay. We will continue to duke it out next week as we do a full review of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm going to assume we are going to have varying degrees of ratings on this.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to hear you say 3 good things about it. It'll make my day. It'll get me through the week.
Yeah?
Anyway, if you like this kind of thing and you want to join us next week if we are still alive, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Give this video a like as well as we continue to argue for now over an hour of Hitchhiker's Guide videos. And as always, if you'd like to help us create more great content like this here on Strip Cover Lit, there's a link as always to our Patreon to be found in the description below.
I promise I'm not going to hurt you, Dalton.